Man's only limitation lies in the development and use of his imagination.
Mr. Hill, it's a true honor to be speaking with you. Your ideas have shaped generations, but perhaps none have woven themselves into our modern culture quite like the one about the power of the mind. The famous principle, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. It's almost become a blank check for daydreaming.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. The sentiment is indeed correct. It is the very bedrock of all human endeavor, the starting point of everything. Before a skyscraper can touch the clouds, its image must first be held in the mind of an architect. Before a symphony is ever played, its notes are first heard in the silence of a composer's mind. An idea, a fleeting image held and nurtured in the mind, is the seed from which all empires, all great works of art, and all inventions grow. That is the foundational power of imagination.
Exactly. And that's precisely where I think my generation and many people today get stuck. We hear whatever you can imagine, you can achieve, and we interpret it as, well, simple fantasy. I can close my eyes right now. I can feel the sun on my skin, hear the waves. I can picture myself in a beautiful villa on the coast. It's a vivid image. But my reality doesn't change. And in today's world, Mr. Hill, a world saturated with distractions, with social media feeds showing us a million things to desire at any given moment, that kind of thinking can sometimes feel like a trap, a form of self-delusion. So my real question, the one I believe is crucial for us today, is this. Where is the line? What separates constructive, world-building imagination from useless, idle fantasy?
That is a magnificent question, Doctor. Truly. One that cuts directly to the heart of the matter. And the answer, the line you're searching for, is not a line at all. It is a doorway between two very different workshops of the mind. To explain that difference, I believe a story is in order. The story of a simple pharmacist and the global empire he created but never lived to see. It involves a taste that is familiar to nearly every person on Earth.
Our story begins in the late 19th century in Atlanta, Georgia. Its protagonist is a pharmacist named Dr. John Pemberton, a Civil War veteran, a man of chemistry and compounds, who, like many apothecaries of his time, was seeking to create a medicinal health tonic. After much trial and error, he landed upon a unique, dark, sweet syrup, a flavor all its own. He called it Coca-Cola.
A pharmacist, so a man of facts and formulas. He created something new. The product was real and in his hands. This is the part that's so perplexing to a modern mind. The hardest part, the act of invention, was done. So why isn't it his name we know today instead of, well, the brand's name?
Because, Dr. Sinclair, Dr. Pemberton's imagination stopped at the edge of the copper kettle in which he mixed his formula. He had created a brilliant product, there is no doubt, but all he could see in his mind's eye was a syrup that might alleviate a headache, a beverage to be sold by the glass for 5 cents at local soda fountains. His vision was contained, limited by what he could physically see and touch.
So he was lost in the weeds of his own invention. He couldn't see the forest for the trees.
Precisely. He was consumed by daily struggles, finding partners, making small sales, convincing a handful of local druggists. He was so pressed for funds that, out of desperation, he began selling off shares of his new company. A piece here, a piece there. He held the golden formula in his hands, but he could not see the empire. He could only see the bottle on his own shelf, not on a million shelves across the world.
And eventually, he sold the formula itself. For how much?
In total, the full rights to what would become one of the most valuable brands in history were sold for the sum of roughly $2,300. Dr. Pemberton died shortly thereafter in poverty and relative obscurity.
$2,300? That's staggering. And this is where Asa Candler enters the picture, I assume. My question is, what did he see that Pemberton, the actual creator, was blind to? Was he just a smarter businessman? More ruthless, perhaps?
Many believe so. They see it as a simple story of a shrewd business deal. But it goes much deeper than that. It wasn't just business acumen. It was a different faculty of sight. Mr. Candler didn't just buy a formula, doctor. He bought a vessel for an idea. Pemberton saw a dark, sweet syrup. Mr. Candler, he saw that syrup in every town in America, and then in every country in the world.
Wait, you mean...
He could hear the satisfying hiss of the bottle opening, a sound that would become synonymous with refreshment across the globe. He saw the elegant flowing script of the name, not just in his ledger book, but on giant illuminated signs in New York, London, Paris, places he had likely never even been.
So, when you use the word potential, you're not just talking about market opportunity on a spreadsheet. You mean he literally held a fully formed vision of a future that didn't exist, as if it were a present-day reality.
Precisely. He held the entire, vast future of that company in his mind. Pemberton created the substance. Candler created the significance. And the difference between those two acts is the difference between the two forms of imagination we all possess.
Imagine the mind is a workshop, a grand and spacious workshop, fully equipped, and within it, two distinctly different craftsmen are at work. The first craftsman we call the synthetic imagination.
Synthetic imagination?
Yes. This faculty does not truly create anything new. Rather, it takes existing materials, old concepts, established ideas, plans that have been tried before, and it simply rearranges them into new combinations. This is what Dr. Pemberton did, and he was a master of it. He took his knowledge of chemistry, various syrups, different compounds, and he combined them to produce his formula. In fact, most business innovation, most day-to-day problem-solving springs from this very faculty.
So it's what we typically think of as thinking, connecting the dots of what we already know.
Precisely. It is essential, but it is not sufficient. Because for a true leap of genius, for something to be born from the ether, the second craftsman must be awakened.
And the second craftsman is...
That is the creative imagination. This is the faculty of the mind that serves as a direct link to what I call infinite intelligence. It is the mind's receiving set. It does not work with the materials already on the workshop floor. It brings to the workshop that which has never existed before. All great hunches, flashes of inspiration, insights that seem to come from out of the blue, they are transmitted through this faculty.
Wow!
That vision Mr. Candler held of a global brand, of that iconic curved logo, of the sound of refreshment recognized the world over. That did not come from a business textbook. It was not a logical combination of existing marketing plans. It was an inspiration, a complete picture that was, if you will, downloaded directly into his mind through this creative faculty.
Wait, that changes everything. It's incredible. So you're not just saying that Candler figured out how to make the drink global. You're saying he received the vision, whole and complete. So then true world-altering creativity, it isn't the act of combining what is, but the act of attuning to and receiving what could be?
That is the great secret, Doctor. The synthetic faculty builds the house. The creative faculty delivers the blueprint from a place you cannot see.
So that's it. That explains everything. It explains why so many people, myself included at times, feel as though we're not truly creative. We're living in a remix culture. We see something on our social feeds, we tweak it slightly, and we reshare it. At work, we take last year's strategy deck, update the data, and call it a new plan. We are constantly just rearranging the furniture in the room. Our synthetic imagination is working overtime, 24/7. But the other faculty, the creative one, it's as if it's in another room with the door shut. And in our world, the music in our own room is just too loud. The notifications, the news alerts, the endless scroll, it's a relentless noise. How can you possibly hear a whisper of inspiration from the next room when there's a rock concert going on inside your own head?
You have described the modern dilemma perfectly, Doctor. The creative imagination, it thrives in silence and in space. It cannot compete with the shouting of the conscious mind. When your conscious mind is bombarded with data, with facts, opinions, fears, and desires, it becomes agitated. It is like the surface of a lake during a storm, rippled, turbulent. No reflection can be seen clearly.
And the inspiration?
An inspiration from infinite intelligence is like a single pebble dropped into that lake. On a calm surface, it creates clear, expanding ripples. But on a stormy surface, its impact is lost entirely. The noise of your world creates a perpetual storm on the lake of your mind.
So people feel uncreative because they've forgotten how to calm the waters, how to simply be still.
Yes, but that faculty, that creative imagination, it has not gone anywhere. It is always there, waiting patiently behind that door for a moment of silence.
So if that faculty is always there, waiting, that brings us to the million-dollar question. How do we open the door? For someone living in the modern world, with all these constant demands on our attention, how do we practically create that silence? How do we calm the waters of that stormy lake?
The method is surprisingly simple, though it requires discipline. First, take the problem or the goal you are wrestling with and define it with absolute clarity. Write it down on paper. Describe it in detail. This step is for your conscious mind. You are giving it a specific assignment.
Okay, focus intently on the problem.
Then, and this is the crucial part, you must consciously release it. Literally say to yourself, I have done my part with this. I am now handing it over to a greater faculty within me to solve. You must truly let go of your grip.
And trusting it, that's the hardest part for most of us.
It is. After that, you must occupy your conscious mind with something else, something rhythmic that requires little focused thought. A long walk in nature, as you mentioned earlier, a warm shower, listening to music that stirs your emotions but has no words. The goal is to get your conscious guard to look the other way. Some of the greatest ideas in history were born not in dizzy offices, but in a bathtub or during an aimless stroll.
And the final step?
And finally, be prepared. The idea will not announce its arrival.
It will come as a flash, a sudden bolt of insight, and it is fleeting. You must always have a pen and paper, a recording device, something nearby to capture the spark before it vanishes back into the ether.
So, with all that said, imagination. It isn't a private movie theater in your mind just for entertainment. No, it's a research and development laboratory, a lab with 2 departments. Sometimes you have to work with the materials you already have on the shelves, combining them, refining them, creating a new synthesis. And sometimes you just have to turn off all the machines, sit quietly in the dark, and be still enough to hear the sound of a major breakthrough happening in the room next door.
A perfect summation, Doctor. Absolutely perfect.